Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, Jake, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. All right, Jake.
I appreciate you meeting with me so fast. Such a
Absolutely.
quick turnaround.
I met with two of your, I don't know if they're in your specific class, but two of your classmates earlier this morning.
Yeah. That's good. Are you in the Bay Area?
I am. I'm in Walnut Creek.
Oh yeah, I've been there before. Is
What about you?
is the tech industry as brutal as they say it is in the Bay Area?
When you say brutal, what do you mean?
Well, our professor's just been talking about here. Everyone's just very laid back. We're not very networky. Whereas in the up in the Bay Area, if you're not up to snuff, they'll let you go after a week. If you're in any kind of tech job up there and you just don't meet it, you're gone.
Well, I don't. Well, all right. So I'm a project manager, so it's a little bit different. I have no coding skills whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that if you're a developer or an engineer, if you're an FTE, they're not going to let you go like that. So more if what he's discussing is likely sorry, I had a call coming in. It's likely a contract role, and if it's a contract role, then yeah, if you're not up to snuff, they will let you go. But that's because there's a huge amount of talent in a small little area like the Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
You've got Cal, you've got Stanford, Cal State East Bay. So from that standpoint, yeah, though. And a lot of times it's not even about your skill set. It's about how well do you get along with others. How well do you? So I mean, that's been my experience. Because I do work with all of those folks. So I do see them come and go. But oftentimes the people who have great personalities tend to stick around even when their skill sets aren't getting the job done.
Yeah, definitely. Well, how did you get started in project management? Is it something that you jumped right into after you went to school, or is it something that did you do something else in IT before you got into project management?
My bad. I've been on mute the whole time.
Yeah, I was just about to say in the chat.
I was saying something really, really smart, but now I got to say it all over. All right. So, and I realized that your video is stuck. So because I'm walking out and about, and I keep getting connected to this, let me turn off my Wi-Fi here. Something's connected. Turn that off. Stay on cellular. And now, there you go. All right. So, I have a business degree. I have a master's in education. Nothing that's just taking my background, but I was a dude in college that would set up your networks and would I can tear a computer down to the motherboard, the power supply, the chassis, the fan. I can build it back up. I've taught people how to do that, provision the operating system and all that. So because I'm self-taught, and I go back to the days of DOS. You know what DOS is? All right. So that's So because I have in that basic C+, I don't know the Ruby on Rails, Python, and Java, but I can understand what they're trying to do because I understand the platform that it's all built on C+. right? And so because of that, I have a basic understanding. I know because of that, that's why I got my starting. And my start in tech was on the hardware side. It was like relocating data centers and building out data centers. So they took my basic knowledge of technology combined with my knowledge of construction for those build outs. And then that's where you get like, your infrastructure project managers who know how to marry technology and construction. So, and then from there, I just started getting into more roles, and I got into IT infrastructure, and then into software development, then into product development, then into cybersecurity. So that's, my path is not like a traditional path for most PMs.
Right. And when you're doing project management, is it hard for you? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you'll work on a project for a few months at a time, hopefully, or however long it is, complete it, and then you move on to the next project, which might be across the country or totally different business. So it sounds, if I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like you're just kind of jumping around all over the place. Is that hard to do, or is it something that you enjoy, always being something new?
Well, oddly enough, I got into project management because I didn't want to manage people. But that was the wrong thing. That's all you do is you manage people in project management. And it's very rare that as a project manager, you just manage one project. The better you get, the more projects they throw at you. So oftentimes people are managing 3, 4, 5 projects at a time. And you do move around, and your projects are, all over the world. But really, it's not that they're all over the world. You're dealing with teammates who are all over the world, because technology doesn't really exist anywhere, but on the multiple data centers, right? So you're just dealing with resources across the globe. And for me, I like it. It keeps things fresh. It always allows me to learn. I'm always learning. I know so much about so many things just because I'm a project manager, right? So I know how it works and how it was built, and how it's set up, and how it's supported, all of those things. So, it's pretty good from that standpoint. But don't let anybody fool you. It's not just like you do one thing and then move on to the next. You're doing multiple things, and right before it ends, they're throwing 4 or 5 more things at your plate. And the better you get, the more they give you.
And that's what I was going to ask is, how do you find the work? Is it something that you go out and present your services to, or is it kind of more like almost like a union, with like the PMI? Do they bring the work to you and, assign you to a project? How do you get to these
You just gave me an idea, though. I wonder if I could create a union for project management.
Oh, yeah.
One doesn't exist, though. That would be pretty cool. So there's a few ways. There's 3 ways that I know of, and I've done all 3. There's the first way that I did, which is the most popular ways, which you just go get hired on with the company. And then the company, whether you're an IT project manager, a business project manager, HR, finance, there's always projects going on. So you're just managing projects for that company. So as soon as you complete one, the company has another project for you. So, it's not that you have to go look for a new work. The second, which I kind of quasi do to this day, but after I decided that, wow, my skill set is in demand, why be tied to any one company, is where you become a contracting project manager. And you do look for work, and how you do that is you either work with contracting agencies like Rose International or K-Force or Robert Half, or and you'll go and you apply for roles that they have there. And they have relationships with all these organizations that want to outsource project managers from them. So that's the second way that you can get in. And then the third way, which is what I do now, just like as a full-time consultant, is where I actually use like my website. So what they call an inbound strategy. So it's kind of like doing this. I teach project management. I mentor people. I do calls like this with you. I do a lot of, I just provide free content that people find through SEO. And then eventually they find me, and then they're like, oh, hey, let's bring this guy in to work for our organization. So that's how I operate now. People
and
find
so
me and me to come work for them.
before you got to that stage, was it ever hard for you? Did it make you nervous to maybe not always have a job lined up, all the time? Because that to me is the one thing about project management that sounds a little, it kind of makes me nervous, that you don't always have a 9 to 5 kind of thing. Did that ever bother you at first, kind of finding the work, whether it's through a contract agency, like you said, or, having to go out and find a job through a regular company? Just that
I don't know.
not so
I don't know
that
if bother.
stability of it.
Bother might not be the right word, right? It's sort of like this. When you're a W-2 employee, you don't have that problem. People who are employees of companies as project managers don't have that issue because they're a W-2 employee, and that's that.
Right.
When you become a contractor, when you become a full-time consultant, in the beginning, so let's say in the beginning, when I first started that journey, when I first left and said I'm gonna be a full-time consultant in 2015, my son was just born a year before. And it was like, okay, now I'm gonna go to this place where, I'm not gonna have medical benefits and this and that. But in the reality of it, medical benefits like cost, if you buy it through the marketplace, like 20 grand a year, right? And that's your premium. And then if you have to pay your deductible, if you don't have to pay your deductible, it might not be that much, right? So as long as you find a role that pays you 25 grand or more than what you're making as a W-2 employee, then what's the difference, right? So I don't view benefits as like a term of stability. I view that as like the way that the world just teaches us to grow up, and we have a job, a 9 to 5 or whatnot. I also look at it like this. If you were to look online right now, there's so many jobs for project managers. Being a project manager is like being a substitute teacher. There's more openings than there are people. And so with that in mind, it's just sort of like, if you take the time to learn your craft and get good at what you do, and then if you also take the time to know how to market yourself and put the stuff that you're doing out into the world, you don't really have to worry about whether a job, because there's always a project happening and there's always somebody that needs a good PM. And if you just do that, it is a shift in mindset. I guess it's easier for me because my mom worked in healthcare for years, and she worked as in the building department. And then I saw what happened when that company folded and they all lost their 401ks. And, you see that happening with a lot of other companies. So I have no trust for any company. I only trust myself. So and then the other part of it is just be balanced, meaning if you go from making 50 grand to 100 grand, keep your 50 grand a year lifestyle and have your, 6-month cushion, that way that when you're out of work, okay, oh, well, I'll find something good. I don't have to take the first thing that comes. I'll take the right thing that comes.
Right.
So it is a big shift in the mindset, right? And they don't teach us that in school. You're not being taught that. You're not being taught these different things. So, I can't even tell you that what I'm saying is right. I just know it's right for me.
Gotcha.
Right. So
it's an acquired skill to learn or to cope with it.
Yeah. And I mean, a part of it also comes from, I know I'm good at what I do.
Right.
So I'll
just being confident in yourself.
I will get something. If the worst case scenario comes, I'll take a role that maybe doesn't pay quite what I'm worth, but I can put food on the table until I find something. Right. So that's kind of just what it comes down to. And I think once you have a few years under your belt, especially once you get some certifications and you kind of know what you're doing, you won't have that fear. You'll just kind of know,
Something I'll go over. So after all these years, it sounds like to me, it seems like you've made yourself pretty successful in project management.
Thank you.
Do you ever look back and, think that maybe you should have gone down another path in IT? There's so many different paths, network engineering, cybersecurity, whatever. Do you ever wish that maybe you did go down a different path, or are you pretty happy with where you brought yourself?
Well, I'm also an anomaly in our field in that a lot of people stay in one lane, meaning they're IT project managers and that's what they do. But I've managed projects in IT and software development, in government, in education, healthcare, cybersecurity, nonprofit. I think that's all the industries. Construction as well, which is weird, right? The construction guy and the IT guy.
Yeah.
I do both. So it's one of those things where I don't look back. The industry's been very, very good to me. It's allowed me to do this. Like I get to talk to people like you and help you out. And whereas if I was a W-2 employee, I couldn't do this. I'd have to be on the job, punched in, doing something. So no, I don't ever look back. I do sometimes wonder if I would have got into coding and became an engineer, what might be different, because you can make a lot of money as an engineer. You can make like 300 grand as an engineer. It takes a very, very long time for you to get to a place where you can make 300 grand as a project manager, and you don't make that as an employee project manager. That's typically, as a consultant, where it's not that you're making 300 grand, it's that you're able to bill $150 an hour, which is kind of the equivalent to that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, once you get to that place, like as a project manager, where you're a consultant, you can build like between 90 to, upwards of $300 an hour. The question just becomes like, will you have that gig for a full year or not? So the shorter the project, the higher the dollar amount that you charge, right? That's just kind of like par for the course, right? So if it's like a 3-month project or something, yeah, we're going to bill 250, 275 an hour, because usually they tried in-house, they were unsuccessful doing it in-house. Now they're reaching out. Now I've got to go and quickly learn everything. I've got to undo what your other PM did. I've got to, save your dying project. So in that case, there's a premium for that. And then again, the longer that you're in the industry and the more that you learn that, the more that you're able to like convey that messaging to people, and so that you can actually bill that amount. So I mean, and in all honesty, it does not take that long to get to that place. I mean, it took me from 2015 until 2019. It took 4 years for me to get to a place where, I could, go from say billing $75 an hour to billing $275 an hour. And not every gig is like that, right? I still take the gig where I'll bill $90, $95 an hour because I want to work with this nonprofit, or I want to work with this healthcare company. So, but I paid my dues on the way to doing that. So, I mean, some people will be able to shoot up past that, and then others, will take a longer time to build up.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, you cleared up a lot of the kind of the mysticism of project management. I've always known about project managers, but the actual kind of like day-to-day of it has always been, the real doing of it has always been kind of mystic to me. So I appreciate your time and answering a lot of those little questions, and the big ones too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a promising career. Like, so what are you getting your degree in?
Computer information systems, business, information systems option.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I told another one of your classmates, which is this: if there is one thing, right, that I could do, is when I have a business degree too. I have a bachelor's of science in business, and my minors are in management information systems and then in organizational communication and public relations, right? So those are my 2 minors. And when I was doing the information systems, because I already had like self-taught knowledge of computers and of technology, I was like, oh man, this could be cool. I thought about going that route. I'm happy I didn't. I didn't need to get a degree in computer science. If there's anything, it would have been, I should have went out and learned actually one of the languages. I should have learned, whether it's Java or whether it's Ruby on Rails, or learned one of those languages, so that like now as a PM, if I wanted to, maybe even now I think about, man, if I could just go get an AWS certification and learn Amazon Web Services, I could just go be a resource, and I don't even have to be the PM, which has a whole lot more responsibilities. But because I have the PM background, they'll likely hire me to be a team lead, not the project lead, and I could make as much, if not more, than a PM and have less responsibilities. Mm-hmm. So there is a little bit of that, like, but also like my natural personality lends itself to like, this job is not that difficult for me. But I also recognize that like, it could be easier. I could like just not have any of that stress, right? So that's what I would say to you. Make sure that because it's easy to go from a technical person to a project manager. It's harder to go from project management to being a technical person, right? Yeah. You kind of start over when you do that. When you go from a technical person to a PM, you don't typically start over. You typically are boosted up. Yeah. So that would be my advice to you. But also, if you find that the role that you like it and it's well suited for you, you work with some folks, like do some summer interns or something like that. And a lot of internships are paid too. That I don't think they were allowed to like give you unpaid internships, right? So I mean, you get paid internships and go see what it's like. And if it's for you, I will say that, man, it's a growing industry. It's in its infancy. People don't know what project management is still. You can't get a bachelor's in project management yet, only master's. So that tells you how far we have to go. Project managers can make $40,000 a year to $400,000 a year because it's such a big range. So, I mean, you're at a time where by the time, are you a freshman, sophomore, junior?
Senior.
Senior. Okay. So you're going to graduate next year. You're going to go into the workforce. You're at a good time for project management. So, I mean, eventually it'll be there, right? In 2017, it wasn't until then that President Obama signed the Project Management Investment Accountability Act that was unanimously passed by the House and the Senate, which made project and program management an actual career in the federal government. So it's been less than 5 years since the federal government has actually had the title project manager. So that tells you it's in its infancy, and eventually it'll grow, and and folks will be able to have a very, very healthy career here. So I mean, don't give it up, but you don't have to be in a rush. It's a growing industry.
Certainly. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time and your advice. I will take it to heart.
Absolutely.
It was good to meet you, and I will let you get on with your day.
Thank you, Jake. Good luck with everything. If you ever need anything else, email me. If you want another session, you got other questions, let me know. Happy to do it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. We'll talk.
Take care.
Bye.